Hey guys, my name's Jenna, and if you're new here, my husband and I spent the last couple of years making our home in North Carolina our dream space, but we couldn't ignore the nudge to move back to Arizona where we had originally moved from. So we packed up all of our belongings and headed back across the country on a week-long road trip where we made some fun stops along the way. And once we arrived in Arizona, we got settled into our temporary rental, and we had so much fun making that space match our style and giving it a cozier vibe. And while we were there, we kept an eye out for our dream home, which we had been looking for years at this point, and honestly we were starting to lose hope that we would find anything that excited us until we toured this one home. We immediately fell in love with the mountain views and recognized all of the potential that this place had. The only problem was that it needed a lot of work. I'm pretty sure the house hadn't been touched cosmetically since it was built, so we had our work cut out for us, especially since we're working with a limited budget, but the views and the bones are what sold us. So follow along as we renovate and turn this house into our dream home. Okay, so this video is part 2 in our renovation series. Last week we picked out countertops and saw the design of our entertainment wall come to life. So if you missed part 1, be sure to go back and watch that episode first. But this week our main focus is going to be painting our walls before the floors are put in. And I just wanted to pick out a nice warm white color. So we headed off to Lowe's to pick a paint color, and at the time they were having a buy one get one sale on the paint that I was trying to take advantage of. Okay, so we've come to this lovely construction zone at night to test some paint samples. Our contractor made a good point and was like, hey, you guys probably should get the paint on the walls before we put baseboards and flooring in, which we knew that deep down, but for some reason we really weren't mentally prepared. So we kind of rushed and picked out some samples. This is Greek Villa. It's like the most yellow. Then we have Snowbound. Then this is pure white, and this is extra white. So we're gonna put these on the walls and see what they look like. We're doing this at night so it can dry overnight, number 1. Number 2, we can see it at night, and then we'll come back tomorrow in the light and make our final decision. So we're just gonna put them on a couple different walls so we can get more of a visual and make our decision.
Maybe I should do this as an ASMR. Listen as each hair on the brush grazes the texture on the wall. Notice the aggressive brush stroke of a stressed out, paranoid painter.
Decision fatigue was definitely starting to set in at this point, and I was a little bit worried about picking the paint color that would be on every single wall in our home in such a short period of time. Okay, so it is the next morning and we've had a little bit of a change of plan. I do not like this sheen, like it is way too shiny. This is the satin finish, and these paints actually don't even come in an eggshell, which is the next least shiny, and we don't want flat, which this comes in a flat, but we do not want that just because it shows every little scuff. We had that in our last house. So we want to go with an eggshell because it's a little bit more durable, but none of these come in that. So we should have done more research to begin with. But now we're going to go head on over to Ace Hardware and look at Benjamin Moore's paint samples because those come in an eggshell. So we're going to go pick out a couple samples of that and then test them down here and pick the one we like. Okay, so we headed off to our local Ace Hardware because I had a list of designer recommended whites that were specifically by Benjamin Moore that I wanted to test out. And to clarify, the paint that was on the buy one get one sale was the paint that did not come in the eggshell finish. And I just wasn't crazy about any of the options that I had originally picked out at first, so I just wanted to give Benjamin Moore a try.
I can instantly tell that's gonna be better. I mean, instantly. Gosh.
Benjamin Moore.
Which one's that one?
I think White Dove, yeah.
So when testing out our paint samples, I made sure to do 2 coats of paint, and we tested the samples in 4 different rooms of our home, all with different lighting to really get an idea of what the paint would look like. And as you can see here, there's a huge difference in the sheen between the eggshell and the satin. I just did not like how the satin finish highlighted the knockdown texture, and the eggshell just made things feel a bit more subtle and natural.
Okay, so we've made our decision, but honestly, we felt like each one of these 3 were it, like 3 separate times. We're like, yeah, it's definitely White Dove. We're going with White Dove. And then we change our mind and be like, no, it's definitely Simply White. So we did that a bunch of times. We flip-flopped, but ultimately we've landed on a decision. We're sticking to it. We're going with Benjamin Moore, Simply White. It was a close second between White Dove and Simply White. We almost decided on this, but ultimately this one's a little bit darker and grayer, and I wanted more of like a crisp, bright feeling. Chantilly lace is also really beautiful. It's just a little bit too cool for me. Like I want it to be more warm and earthy. So this is a great one because it has a higher light reflective value than White Dove, and I want it to be a little bit brighter, but it's still warm, as you can see. So it's not gonna give off that like blue tint that like primer will give off. This is going to be like a nice bright warm white. So Simply White it is.
Okay, so once we made the paint decision, we got to work priming the entire house, and we just used the basic Kills primer that we got at Lowe's, and it worked great. I will say, if we had to go back and do this all over again, I would have 100% looked into learning how to use a sprayer. I was just convinced that this project wouldn't take that long, but I was definitely wrong on that. Also, I had a lot of experience with rolling paint, but none with spraying, so I just felt more comfortable going with that, but it probably would have been a lot faster and easier because we had no furniture in the house, but I did feel like the rolling gives you a nice even finish. So when we went to buy our paint, the person working at the desk told us that if we bought the premium paint, it should only take 1 coat as opposed to 2, and at this point we were willing to spend the extra money to save us on time since we were racing to get this done before the floors went in. So even though it was $80 a gallon, we decided to get a couple of gallons just to test it first and make sure that it would work like we hoped with the 1 coat. Okay, so apparently picking a white paint color is a lot harder than I thought. So yesterday I put up that Simply White color on one big wall, and I was kind of disappointed just because we splurged for the really nice paint where they told us in the store that it would only take 1 coat of coverage, and unfortunately it was just really patchy, and we're definitely gonna have to do 2 coats if we go with like the premium paint, which in my opinion, if we do 2 coats, then I don't get the point in paying all the extra for the expensive one. So I was bummed about that. And then the color was like very white, so I liked it, you know, obviously I liked how white it was. It did have a nice creamy undertone, which was pretty, but I started second guessing myself, and then I came across Modern Nest on Instagram. I followed them for a while, but I love their aesthetic, and I just think that it looks so beautiful, and it's really what we're going for in our house. So one of their #1 recommended paint colors was White Heat, and also Swiss Coffee, but by Dunn Edwards. And I was like, okay, we haven't gotten too far into this, let me go run over to Dunn Edwards and see what I can get. And honestly, I was super impressed. They were really nice. Everybody was super knowledgeable, and they even have this deal where you can get 3 paint samples for $20, and that includes 3 brushes, and they give you these like little pieces of paper that you can put on the wall if you don't want to paint the wall directly. I mean, we're going to paint the wall directly because I want to see it on the texture, but I figured it was a good deal, and everybody was really knowledgeable, and he did tell me, he's like, even if you buy our premium one, you're probably going to have to do 2 coats. That's what we recommend. So I appreciate that they were honest. So I got 3 paint sample colors. I got White Heat, Swiss Coffee, and Almond Milk. So we are now gonna go back to the house and then test those on our now gallery wall of paint samples, but we're gonna put those up there and see how they stack up. Okay, so here's everything with the addition of the new Dunn Edward paint samples. And as you can see, you know, everything is a little bit similar, but it's also super different. So the one that I did put on the wall was Simply White by Benjamin Moore right here, but I did feel like it was just a little bit too bright. So this down here, this is Dunn Edwards White Heat, and I think that is what we are gonna end up going with because it's just a little bit creamier. If you can see, it's still gonna give me that bright white look, but it has a little bit more warmth to it, which I like, and it's toned down just a little bit. I believe the light reflective value of this one is like 90 and this one is 87, so it's just a tad bit toned down. This one, which is Dunn Edwards Swiss Coffee, was a close second, but as you can see, it's just a little bit grayer, so I wanted to have more of that warmth in there. And if you guys are wondering what the other ones are, I will put like a photo with the labels on them so you can see what they all are. So there you go, guys. We finally picked a paint color. Dunn Edwards White Heat, and in a slight plot twist, we actually didn't even end up going with an eggshell finish. Dunn Edwards offered a velvet finish, which was 1 level less shiny than the eggshell, but was 1 level shinier than the flat. And it was actually the sheen that the samples came in, so we went with that, and we were super happy with our decision. Even though I know plenty of you watching this think I'm crazy for getting this specific on a white paint color, and you might be right, honestly, but we just put so much time and effort into painting these walls that I didn't want to get something that I was just okay with, or I looked at later and was like, oh, that's too cool or it's too warm. I really wanted to love it. And also something that was huge was that Dunn Edwards was the most affordable out of all of the paints that we tested. And they even gave a substantial HOA discount if you're part of an HOA, at least at our local Dunn Edwards. So that saved us a ton of money also. We also liked the consistency of the paint. It was really easy to work with and looked great after 2 coats. And I loved this color, how it was that bright white that I was hoping for, but it also felt really warm and earthy at the same time. But at this point now, it was time to take a break because the guys were here to help frame out our range hood, which I was super excited about. So this is what it ended up looking like after the guys were done framing it out. And we had it taper in 2 inches. So it was really subtle, but it still had a shape to it. And right here along the end, our drywaller just left some extra space so we could attach our beam to that section.
Oh my gosh, you guys, we're having so much good progress happen this week. I love how this island came out. This was exactly what I was wanting. The guys did such a great job. I wanted to have kind of like that waterfall look without, having a full slab on the corner. So this came out really good. I will say I am going to be stripping these down to the wood. They have like a lacquer on them and a finish. So when they're stripped down, they will look like this. So right now they're mismatched, but they are the same wood, which is maple. So I'm gonna strip those down and then restain the whole island. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do yet. I'm thinking maybe a dark color or maybe kind of like a light wash. I'm not sure. We'll have to see once the floors go in what looks good. I'm definitely loving the addition of this trash rollout. We actually did one on both sides because we had empty space. We're gonna have to figure something out for a knob. I'm not sure if I'll do like a little recessed one or just like a simple knob, but that's gonna be really nice to have 2 trash rollouts. And also they came and drywalled our range hood, and this is kind of what it's gonna look like. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do a 90-degree corner or if I wanted them to add this little beaded detail, and I ended up having them do the rounded corner just to match the walls because the walls in the space all have our little beaded corners, and I'm really glad I did. I think that it helps just make it a little bit softer. And then we're gonna add an old weathered beam right here. It's the one I bought off of Etsy, and we're just gonna trim it down and have it be a little border around the bottom, and then I'll probably paint this white or do like a plaster detail on there. So looking good, lots of progress so far. We have a lot of the countertops covered because we were painting the ceiling the other night, but I'm so happy with how things are turning out. And it's really fun when you can kind of start to see it come to life. Obviously, it'll be nice to see the floors go in and this to be stained, but you can kind of like start to see the vision a little bit more.
What's the angle? I'm not playing that game. It's the same business with a different name. Who's the target? Sorry, I'm not in the market. If I quit buying, you can't sell me anything. No thanks, I'll pass. I don't want any.
Okay, so the place is finally painted. This took us a lot longer than we thought. Flashback to when I said it wouldn't be that hard. I feel like if I do it room by room, it'll be fine and it won't be that bad. We don't have super tall ceilings to where I can't reach the ceiling on a ladder or anything, but this should be pretty easy to paint. Yeah, no, it literally took us 2 full weeks of every single hour after work coming here, working till late at night. Our weekends were full on, just like 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. painting, but everything is all done and it looks so good. It's the next morning. We finished last night and it really feels so good. I cannot feel my painting hand still. I have blisters all over, but it was worth it. Now they are coming to lay the floors. So I was thinking about the direction that I wanted the floors to be laid in, and there's a couple things to keep in mind. So number one, you want to lay them parallel to your main light source. So over here is like most of our windows, so that would mean they would lay this way. You also want to lay them parallel to your longest wall in your home, which for us is probably this long wall. And then also it's ideal if you can lay them parallel to your front door, so it kind of of draws your eye that way and welcomes you into the home. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna lay them this way. And I'm just really happy with how everything turned out. It looks so good. This is the last view with no floors, so it's really starting to come together, and we're getting to the exciting part now.
So back when we were picking out our floors, we would take the sample from the showroom and then place it on the floor to get a more realistic idea of what it would look like. But honestly, lighting and environment can make such a big difference on how flooring looks. Like, for example, this was actually the laminate that we had in our last house, and I felt like it looked so much grayer when it was on our floors than how it looked in the showroom. So it was really important to us to take the samples into our space and decide on the floors after seeing them in our home. So these were the 3 samples that we kind of narrowed it down to. I wanted something with wide and long planks for a more modern feel. We ended up eliminating this one because of that little border detail around the edge of each plank, which I didn't love the look of. I loved the color of this one, but we ended up eliminating it because there was no texture to it. It was very flat and shiny, which just made it look more plastic and not as realistic. So we ended up going with Provenza New Wave Playful Pony, and I loved the color. I just felt like it had that distressed rustic feel, but it gave off some warmth and had a really beautiful texture that made it look so much like real hardwood and just gave off a very expensive feel. So this was a luxury vinyl, so it's supposed to be really durable and waterproof. This is perfect for us for those hot summer days when we need to play fetch inside with our dog. She loves to play hallway goalie, and I really like knowing that we don't have to worry about scratching up the floors when we play with her. It's also really nice to have a waterproof floor in our kitchen and around our dishwasher area that seamlessly blends in with the living space. I also loved the variety of the planks and how they had a really nice color variation between the 12 different planks that it came in. And the guys did a fantastic job with the install. It was exactly what we were looking for, even though we felt a little rushed initially to pick out our floors because we had to lock in the order the day after we closed on the home. I am so happy with our choice. I would 100% pick these floors over and over again.
Woohoo! The floors are in. I love them because they're like this perfect mix of kind of like a warm color, but also still have like that rustic, distressed little touch of gray to them. But overall, I would say they're more on the warm side. We did decide to go with just like a 5-inch super simple baseboard, and I think they look really good. They definitely make the house look so much nicer now and add that pretty warmth to the floor that I was looking for. Very happy with it. I think it's like the perfect color. It's not too dark, but not too light. And it just looks really good in the space.
That about wraps up this video, you guys. I hope you all enjoyed seeing part 2 of our home renovations. Be sure that you're subscribed and that your notifications are turned on so you don't miss part 3 that's coming up next week. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye!